seems that no one down in Trenton fully thought out the issue of how municipalities would know whether they're satisfied leaving the regulations to be imposed, which have not yet been adopted. So, as the mayor says, to err on the side of caution, we preserve our rights to amend and to kind of chart our own destiny rather than leaving it to the statute in Trenton. And so we're not bound if we reject. The rejection is, as the mayor says, prefaced on the likelihood that this issue is going to be reviewed again, and the committee would consider making a revised ordinance once the regulations have been put together in Trenton. But the kind of arbitrary 180 days telling the municipalities, if you don't act, you're out for 5 years. So we're erring on the side of caution. Is what we're doing.
Okay.
And personally, my concern is that not all residents know about this right now. And in order for us to have an ordinance in place by the August deadline, we'd have to have something ready to introduce by July, by next month. And we're not going to have time between now and then to get sufficient input from the residents. And this is the type of issue where I really don't think we ought to be shooting from the hip. We ought to take our time, carefully consider it, get input from the residents. There are actually a few nonprofit organizations that have reached out saying they would like to give input as well. They're not necessarily residents, but they're giving input to the municipalities on their views about allowing retail sales of marijuana within your jurisdiction. And we ought to hear these organizations out. We ought to be making decisions based on significant information and significant input, and not, as I said earlier, shooting from the hip. So, So, I bad enough I have to hear myself once. I don't want to hear myself twice. So, are we back on?
Sort of.
Okay.
So what I did, I set up a new live stream. Chris is going to switch the links around on the website, so hopefully people can just click on that. That should work. We'll put the laptop somewhere up there so people can kind of get an idea of what we're doing. But they should get the audio at least live.
We probably lost a lot of people because it's now 7:51, yes. But in any event, so we will open up to the public, and if anybody wants to speak on the marijuana topic tonight, you can, but this is not your last bite at the apple. We're going to do what we can to publicize this as widely as we can throughout the municipality, and we will have additional public hearings and additional ways for people to provide input as to whether they're for or against this. So with that said, can I have a motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone from the public would like to talk about the topic of marijuana dispensaries or retail sale, I should say, in East Amwell, please feel free to come forward.
Or we respond, sorry.
I didn't know if I was supposed to come up here or stay here. So.
Yes, you want to come up here and then state your name and address.
Okay. Do I sit, stand? Can I stand?
Whichever you're most comfortable with.
Hi, my name is Leslie Gable. I'm actually the co-CEO of one of the profits, Mayor, that you were speaking of at Prevention Resources. We are a nonprofit that covers Hunterdon County that works to improve health and wellness within the community. However, tonight I'm here as Leslie Gable, a resident of 6 Tanager Drive, Ringoes, New Jersey, which is just up the road. While it's Raritan, I walk across the street and I'm in East Amwell. So this actually is quite personal to me. So tonight I'm saying I'm speaking as myself. I've spent a lot of time in the last 12 years working on substance use prevention. I've seen what and how it can damage the lives. My most concerns that I have is for our youth and the perception that it's a norm and it's acceptable. With that said, we know that the voters have, voted that they want it legalized. That doesn't necessarily mean that people want it within where they live. A lot of this was around about how people were managed within the law. The other things that I want to point out that you might not be aware of, for example, in California, 80% of the municipalities actually do not allow retails within their local areas. We know that it's going to happen, So this is not about stopping things from happening. I do commend the town here for pausing and waiting to see what those regulations are. The fact that the state has put such a tight regulation on municipalities, I don't think that's fair. The other things that, just to add of what you mentioned about the opting out within, if you don't opt out, then you have 5 years to wait, but whatever has been approved or already established gets grandfathered in. So I do commend the wait approach and see really what the regulations are. My largest concern on retail, as a member, again, right down the road here, is really how the businesses are operated. What's the signage? Is it geared and marketed towards youth? Those regulations were never put in place in Colorado, and you can go anywhere and see large billboards and signs and really geared towards minors. And that's my main concern, is I want to ensure that however retails are established, or cultivators with water and safety and drainage, there's so many issues that need to be worked out. So I'm just here tonight as a resident that lives right down the road to just ask for the pause and a really investigation that towns can put in to really ensure the safety and ensure that dispensaries or retails do not market towards you. So I say thank you so much for your time and appreciate the consideration.
Thank you for coming in. Anyone else like to speak on the topic?
Yeah, I already spoke, but with her 100%. I agree with
Dave, can you just state your name and your address?
David Bond. And I agree with everything that she said.
What's your address?
325 Center 579.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak on this topic? Seeing no one else coming forward, do I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Anyone on the committee like to speak to this topic right now?
So just to be clear on the ordinance for tonight, we adopt this. This doesn't preclude us from bringing, potentially adopting something allowing for the retail in like 2 or 3 months. Right?
That is our understanding. That is correct.
And do
In
we
fact, what we're adopting tonight is the model that was put out by the League of Municipalities.
Okay. So it doesn't. Just want to make sure we're not, stopping ourselves. Okay.
And who's actually the planning board is working on this, correct?
No, it's now in our court.
In township committee.
Correct.
So how are we going to do this, right? Because we meet monthly. We have to do a lot of work on this. How does this work? We're going to have a subcommittee, like we talked about hearing from the public. We have work to do. I'm just curious, how are we going to do this in this forum, outside of this forum? How are we going to do that?
Well, that's in part up to you.
Yeah.
As a member of the township committee to weigh in on how it gets done. So how would you like to do it?
I don't know. I think we should talk about it, right? Because if we're agreeing that we're going to wait, right? So that's what we're adopting. I mean, I don't really know. I'm happy to work on it. I just don't know. The only time the 5 of us can talk about this is in this type of forum, correct?
That is correct.
We can't meet outside of here.
Well, as 5 of us, theoretically, you could have 2 people, or we could create our own subcommittee on it. I volunteered to, be involved with that. I mean, ultimately, I guess we have to wait for the regs to come out, right, and see what those are and kind of digest that before we really do anything.
Is that what we're doing? We have to wait for the.
That's the whole point of putting the pause on it right now, just so we see what kind of guidance.
And I'm just curious, why is it no longer with the planning board? Did they not think that it was within their ability to do it? They wanted us to. I don't care. I'm just curious because I know
the planning board is not a legislative body. The planning board doesn't enact ordinances. We enact ordinances. To approve something like this, you need an ordinance. That's why it comes to us.
Okay.
The planning board has recommended, as we've said at prior meetings, that we allow retail. We discussed that pretty extensively. Now it's up to us to decide whether we want to follow that recommendation or not. My own view is that we ought to get as much input from the public and from other interested individuals or organizations as we can. I don't see that we're gonna be able to do that and get an ordinance done by the August deadline. That's why I'd like to put this on pause, the legislation, until we can get more input. Part of getting input will be posting things on the website. And if we think it's important enough and want to spend the money, we can even send a letter to every resident in the municipality on this topic. That's not an inexpensive proposition, but it is something to consider. But I think in some fashion, we have to get the word out there as broadly as we can, at the very least through our website, through the VIP, through the Facebook page, through word of mouth, through the school, and let people give their input either by coming to a meeting or by emailing or calling us.
Frank, do you have any timeline on when the state's supposed to reach the decision?
Within 180 days, the same time frame that they give us to adopt the ordinance. So it kind of coincides, probably August to September, but there's no guarantees on it.
Right, if they blow their deadline, it's not like, their deadline isn't the same as our
Ours is
deadline.
hard, theirs is soft.
Right.
So,
That's how it works with government.
but we have some time and we can form subcommittees, we can have special meetings, you can solicit input from the public. There's a lot of ways to approach the issue.
Are we looking?
But it'd be interesting to see what are the regulations that they're seeking to impose.
Look, I'm sensing in my capacity as mayor some resistance to this proposal in East Amwell, just based on a limited amount of input that I've received so far. And that input isn't from 40 or 50 or 60 people, it's from a handful of people, and it's mainly just running into people at the recycling depot or elsewhere. But it's in part for that reason that I think it's really important that we put this on pause. And we don't have to decide by August. I don't know that we should take 3 years to work through this. I think we ought to give it a high priority because there's a significant amount involved here. There's a significant amount of potential tax revenue involved here. But August is too soon.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I agree that we're pausing. So it sounds like August, September, we should have further information from the state.
You may not have further information from the state until next August or September. They're not
best case scenario.
They're not bound by the same deadlines we are. Who knows how long it'll take to write these regulations?
Okay.
And because it's such a political
Links change.
hot potato, I would imagine that these regs are going to undergo a lot of review before they get released. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But that said, we don't need the regulations necessarily to come to our own conclusions to whether we think having a facility like this in East Amwell is a good thing or a bad thing.
It's only limited geographic areas. So it's a very narrow area.
But yeah, nobody was talking about putting it in, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but generally, I don't think people were envisioning sticking it in the middle of the Ringgold's Village if you were going to have a retail facility. It was more on the outskirts, like on Route 31 on the south border of East Amwell. But nonetheless, it would be within our boundaries, and East Amwell would be associated with having a retail facility. And how do we feel about that? So I think we'll work out a game plan for trying to get the message out to the public in the most cost-effective and efficient way, and we'll go from there. We good?
Yeah. It's him. Yes, sir. You got anything to add on this? Or?
I know the state is, losing a snail's pace, but,
Yeah.
I just think that, everybody should know that the potential tax revenue is, like I said before, I mean, it's like having a liquor store, but we make money off of it. So,
Yeah.
I know people are against it and everything, but it's legal in the state. So I just think that it's an opportunity for the township to reduce people's taxes. And that was what we heard from the farmers when they were pissed off at us. And, if we want to do something, let's lower their taxes. And one way to lower taxes is to take income off of the dispensary. And, I know numbers can fluctuate on that, but, even if it's $100,000 a year, it's $100,000 we don't have coming into the budget now. So But I think it's gonna be a lot more than $100,000 a year. I really do. I mean, it has potential to be $100,000 a month. So,
Well, look, in all fairness, our municipal taxes are 10% of your total tax bill. 90% of your total tax bill is outside of our control. So even if we cut municipal taxes a quarter, that equates to a 2.5% cut in your overall taxes. Is that insignificant? No, it is not insignificant, but should we be doing something that the residents don't want in order to have what would not be a monumental impact on our tax revenue? The answer to that may be no. As I said, this really requires a lot more thought. And doing what we are going to do tonight, if we approve this and delay the process, we can also see what other municipalities are doing. And I don't profess to have a corner on wisdom. It would be nice to hear the views of other elected officials and see how they feel about it. Maybe even the county will take a position on this. I don't know. I don't know if the commissioners will take a position on this or not. So
I've been making phone calls to local zoning officers and planning people. Everybody's keeping it close. Nobody's committed to anything right now. They're if they're passing ordinances against it, they might tell you that, but they're not. Everybody's being like us. Okay, everybody's waiting for the smoke to clear. I think is what's happening. So
look, it's an important decision and one that shouldn't be made hastily.
It is. But I don't think, like I said, I don't think it should be sat idle. It needs to be acted on, whether it goes yes or no. I think it's something that that needs to be figured out in the next 6 months. So we don't, if it goes yes, that we don't lose out on the availability of something, and lose our opportunity. That's all. Yeah.
I could just add one other thing, just so people all also are aware, is even if you say, I'm gonna have a dispensary, it doesn't necessarily mean that the state will give you a license for this municipality, right? So there's just so many unknowns about how they're gonna regulate it and what they're gonna do. 2% is the max, so for every $1 million sold, the town will get $20,000. But with that, it's a cash-based business. How are you gonna manage being able to collect the tax? How are you gonna regulate? I mean, those things all need to be figured out. How are you gonna make sure that you're getting the proper tax revenues that you're supposed to? And this is part of the issues with the regulatory commission. There's so many things, and there's so many cleanup bills that keep happening. Right now, there's a lot of conversation about homegrown for medicinal purposes. So every time these regulations they're trying to move forward, there's cleanup bills and more bills being proposed on top. So I can't remember who said it about how far it's going to be out. It really will be out quite some time because there's so many legal things that keep occurring. I can tell you, I've visited a lot of municipalities and most are taking the exact same approach. I can tell you some are having special committees, and I would hope that Hunterdon County would all pull together to share all the knowledge and the information that we have. That's really from our position. And me as a resident, I care tremendously, especially about this part of the county. So I'm happy to provide information. And that, by the way, legally, my job, that's all I can. I can't give you opinions. I can only provide, the information we get from the states.
Okay, anybody else on the committee? Motion to close the public?
So,
Oh,
yeah, that was.
okay. I thought I made a motion to open the public to discuss this.
Chris asked him a question as a planning board chair.
Well, then motion to open and close to the public? Okay. Next on the agenda, acknowledgements by the mayor. I'm going to defer my acknowledgements until next month because we were having technical difficulties with the live streaming. And when I do these acknowledgements, I really like the residents to see the acknowledgements. Before I go on to other things, we have with us tonight Pat Eckert, who comes in periodically and gives us an update about what's going on with respect to our rescue squad. And I don't like to keep Pat sitting there all night while we go through all of our township business. So the floor is yours, Pat.
I appreciate it. I'm Patrick Eckert, Chief of the Amwell Valley Ambulance Corps. just want to give you an update. We've been doing some standbys at the park, which we love to do also. And we also have a Support Me t-shirt. It's a support, and it says Amwell Valley Ambulance Corps on it. So they're $20 a piece. If you're interested in a t-shirt, they're on our website, or you can stop by our building. Last month, we had 31 calls. We had a crew for all 31 calls. So that was very good. And we had over 1,800 hours in people being at the building, just hanging out or going on calls or and standbys. We did have the big motorcycle run that wasn't very big because it rained. So that standby didn't go that well, but we were still there in the rain supporting everybody. So we're here if you need us, and it's really all. I know people are mostly done giving donations, but we still always need donations. And we're doing this, we're still doing our surveys, and most people really do appreciate us coming, and they give us high marks. The most we get is our response time, and people have to remember that we're over here, and the rest of the township's over here, behind me, way behind me, way, way, way. So it takes a long time for us sometimes to just get from our building to your house. We apologize for the wait, but you know, there are bicyclists and other things in our way as we're trying to go onto these small roads. So have patience. I've been on the other end of 911 waiting for an ambulance, and it does feel like a long time. So we do try to get there safely and as fast as possible. But our surveys are all coming back nice and positive, which I appreciate. So, and some people even send back some donations, which of course always helps. So, and we're always here if you need us. And I believe the fair is going to go. So, because it goes on the website, then I'm told no, but I think it's going to go. So we'll see at the fair. We'll be there every day, 12 hours. So, if you have any questions.
From what I've heard, because I'm on the fair committee, it's 100% go, but I really, we appreciate everything that you do, but it would be great for you to, because you help out the track and pull and do everything else, get some t-shirts or do something to raise some money. Because the people that are there enjoy you being there. I mean, they enjoy.
We're going to bring our t-shirts.
And they'll just dump money in buckets. You just hold buckets out till.
We hope so.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% sure they will. So, like I said, just be there and give them the opportunity to give you money, because they will.
Thank you.
Because we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay. Now on to more mundane things. Approving the minutes. We have the May 13th, 2021 executive session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. We have the May 13th, 2021 regular meetings minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Special committee reports. We have a few things tonight to do. We have 3 things. First, we interviewed Greg. Jackie-O. At our planning board meeting 2 months ago. Greg had an application before the planning board, so we deferred his official appointment while his application was being decided by the planning board. His application has since been decided, and so we would like to officially appoint him to the planning board. The mayor makes these appointments, but I always ask for the input of the township committee. I believe we were all on board with appointing Greg, but tonight I just want to make that official. So are we all in favor of appointing Greg?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations, Greg. Welcome aboard.
You need a motion in a second.
Could I have a motion to appoint? Well, I don't think we do, because the mayor appoints. We don't need a motion. The mayor appoints so I think we're good.
Okay.
I actually been meaning to tell you that, but next, we have the resignation of a planning board member, Jason Silverthorne, who is our DPW supervisor. On the planning board, you have a thing called a Class 2 member, and a Class 2 member is a municipal official. And we appointed Jason, I guess, a couple of years ago. Now that COVID is over and his kids are of an age where they're playing sports, Jason is coaching and doing a lot of things with his kids, and really can't devote the time to his full-time, more than full-time job here in East Amwell, his children on the planning board. So he has tendered his resignation. I really regret getting the resignation, but I certainly understand why. So with that, could I have a motion to accept the resignation of Jason with regrets?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Last, and I'll,
We have to Mike Petrus after this.
oh, right, okay. So next is the application for the use of the municipal facilities, the Super Soccer Stars. Krista, do you want to talk about that?
I'll do one
This is the one that is actually part of the existing one that uses our fields, right? This is the South County.
No, it's separate.
As I understand it,
The procedure is.
you're talking about Tara Les? Okay.
The procedure is for the township committee, the current procedure is for the township committee to approve the applications that come in for use of facilities fields. This kind of goes hand in hand with the Boston Park, so I don't know if you want to kind of move it to that. But we already have a soccer approval that I believe Allison approved.
I thought that this one,
South County.
because I looked at the application, I thought it was still part of South County Soccer.
It came in a separate application, so we do each application separate.
So, I mean, there's no reason for us not to approve this that I can see.
No, it's a summer camp for the kids on the South County Soccer.
Which is who we already gave the permission to use our fields, right? So I do think this is pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Just approve it, right?
So can I have a motion to approve this?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, last, resident Mike Petrus applied to be on the recycling committee. I actually ran into Mike at the recycling depot and asked him to consider rejoining because he had been on it and has an interest in this. And we got his application, which is great news. The chair of our recycling committee is in favor of us appointing Mike to the recycling committee. And as a member of the recycling committee, I could tell you that Lord knows we need the help. So this to me is an easy decision. This is a township committee decision. The township committee appoints to the recycling committee. So could I have a motion to appoint Mike Petrus to the recycling committee?
So moved.
Any questions or comments?
Do we need approval for this one? I thought you can't appoint.
No, this is a township committee appointment. All I could say is the other benefit of having Mike on the recycling committee is any written materials that go out by the recycling committee will be perfect grammatically. Mike is the defender of the English language. With that, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Perfect. So you'll let Mike know?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. I guess we're up to the open to the public. This open to the public session, there's a strict limit of 10 minutes and you can speak about any topic. Could I have a motion to open to the public?
Okay.
All in favor? Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no one coming forward, motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Okay, consent agenda items. The first one I think is pretty simple. It is a resolution to approve the renewal of the Yama Valley Fire Company Club license. Can I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thanks. Any questions or comments?
No, we can't talk about it. Mr. Castle.
All right, these are consent agenda items.
Yes.
Mr. Mills,
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes. I thought if we only had one, it didn't have to go on the consent agenda.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Resolutions. This is the revised resolution authorizing the approval for 100% disabled veteran tax exemption for John Walker. It would be effective April 13th, 2020, when it was deemed and approved fully. And this is to revise the resolution to make it clear that we are refunding just the municipal portion.
Correct.
Not the portion that goes to the county or the schools. If he wants that refunded, he needs to go to the county or the schools. Could I have a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next is the resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation under NJSA 40A-4-87. Could I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Resolution to approve our bank accounts and use this bank resolution to open an account. We're opening an account in a new bank, or is it just under new names?
This is for, our online banking.
Is this the test account or?
There's no test.
Oh, all right.
No, it's not a test account,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's for, the merchant.
Right,
The merchant
okay.
account for our online banking that we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be taking online payments and credit cards in the front.
Yeah, we signed a contract last month. The township committee had authorized me to sign a contract a few months ago. We signed the contract and we're going to start accepting certain payments online, so people don't have to come to the municipal building, they can pay online.
They just have to pay more money to do it that way?
There will be a fee if they pay online, yes.
But it's relatively insignificant. And it's not to generate revenue for the township.
No, not at all.
It goes to, where's the additional fee go?
It pays for the service.
It covers the cost of the service. We're just covering our expenses. So could I have, I guess, all in favor of approving
You
that?
need a motion in a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution to approve the summer playground directors for 2021. I believe you guys interviewed them,
We did.
and you're all in favor of approving them, I would assume.
They're gonna be great.
So could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Sorry. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have some ordinances that we're introducing that are an offshoot of the approval of the budget. We have to appropriate certain amounts. So I'll go through these. First is Ordinance 21-11, which is to provide for archiving and storage of records for various departments as a general improvement for the Township of East Amwell. And this is in the amount of $35,000, and it would come from our capital improvement fund. Could I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Well, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Krista?
The ordinance will be published in the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30.
Next is Ordinance 21-12. It is an ordinance appropriating $65,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund for the purpose of purchasing a wood chipper. Our existing wood chipper is from the 80s. It is on its last leg, and that's probably being generous. So we are looking to purchase a new wood chipper. This is going to be a gas wood chipper, not a diesel. So we are saving some money. A diesel would be better if we were using it day in and day out. We're not using it day in and day out full time. And so Jason made the decision that the gas version would be more than adequate to satisfy our needs for many years to come. And we are saving some money versus getting a diesel wood chipper. So Can I have a motion to introduce 21-12?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Did we like talk about a wood chipper a couple of years ago? I just my memory like really close.
The wood chipper has been on our radar screen for years, and we've been kicking the can down the road because of budgetary constraints, but we've kicked the can about as far down the road as we can.
And you can't fix it anymore.
And we can't be without a wood chipper. It's not that we use it every day, but we can't in a rural community like this be without a wood chipper.
I know we talked about it in the past.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next is.
The ordinance will be
Oh,
published in
sorry.
the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m.
Next is 2113. This is a road related. This is to repair certain roads. Not fill potholes so much as deal with drainage issues, replace damaged conduit, etc. And this would be $100,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund. Do I have a motion to introduce 21-13?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
So I read the text of both 20-13 and 20-14. Is there a particular reason why they like separate?
21-14 is chip seal, and 21-13 is repairing roads.
Okay. But other just on potholes, stuff like that.
No, it's doing capital improvements, such as taking out concrete conduit that's bad and replacing it, or adding conduit where we need to do drainage work. It's capital improvements to the road.
And the DPW recommends which roads we prioritize.
It's not even necessarily roads, it could be just spots on roads. So this tends to be, I mean, it is, when we're chip sealing a road, they will go through and stabilize the road before we chip seal it. So that will be where some of this goes, and some of it will be to deal with spot issues.
So 20-14 covers the chip seal, 20-13 just covers all various repairs that have to be.
Correct.
Okay.
All in favor of 21-13?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The ordinance will be published in the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30.
Next, we have 21-14, which, as we discussed, is for our chip seal. This was a program that we put in place. We planned on it in 2018, put it in place in 2019, and have been chip sealing in 2019, 2020, and again in 2021. Could I have a motion to introduce 21-14?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
The ordinance will be published in the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30.
Okay, next is 21-15, which is to amend our code, section 1 or chapter 106, Parks and Recreations Facilities. Krista prepared and circulated an amendment, and it's really just to formalize in our ordinance what is our existing policy, which is the $50 fee to reserve. And then she made some cleanup changes having to do with porta potties and the like. And the amended ordinance was in the Google Drive. So could I have a motion to introduce 21-15?
I think this one too, it was the process put in place, right, on how to review applications. It's this one, right? So I think Krista also did a good job of trying to remove.
Can someone make a motion first
Sorry.
and second, and then
Okay.
discuss it?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Okay, so I think Krista also did a good job of editing to make it more of a process for how we officially rent out our fields for the year or whatever, not rents out, but allow the usage of our fields. So it gets properly approved by both Parks and Rec and the DPW. And then will be an informed to the township committee. So we're aware of who's using our fields. I think next week, so I would encourage you guys, if you haven't read this one, to read it again, because there's, as Rick mentioned, some of the specifics on the fees. And I will tell you that in Parks and Rec, we've been discussing some potential ways of looking at those fees and trying to look for park improvements. So we are meeting in the Parks and Rec Committee, I believe, next week. And we're going to start throwing around some ideas within that committee around how to, if we could potentially look at doing things a little bit differently down the road. So I don't think that doesn't, allow us to have this ordinance.
It doesn't affect the ordinance,
The way it's written today.
the way it's written, or how it's processed.
But if you haven't read it, just make sure you read it because it does, I think we added in there an additional $15.
Yeah, we had an additional $15 for a rain date. We just didn't think it was fair for someone to hold the spot without a type of payment that could have been given to someone else.
Yeah.
Who could have used the money.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was quite of a wake-up call to me because I actually had never looked at how many people are actually using the pavilion. So Krista pointed me to that website as well, and it's actually being used quite often.
Yeah, this year it's popular.
Yes.
This year, we are, it's our highest year since 2018.
So just so I'm clear, this ordinance is simply knocking the fee down from 75 to 50. Is that what this would?
Now, if you read the ordinance, the old ordinance required a deposit
$500 deposit.
and a fee.
Insurance.
And
We
proof of
eliminated the $500
insurance.
deposit.
You had to show liability
I
insurance.
misread it. It's
things
chapter,
like-
it's chapter 75.
Yes.
Okay. It's been a long day. I got it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
The ordinance will be published in the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30.
Okay, and then finally, we have ordinance 21-16, which is the ordinance that I mentioned during our discussion of the marijuana issue. And this ordinance would prohibit the operation of any type of marijuana activity in East Amwell Township. This is what I've discussed earlier. So could I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Well, just to reiterate, just for the record, this isn't stopping us from doing it at some point in the future. That's what's a concern. Right, we can do it whenever. Okay. Just want to make that clear. So that's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
The ordinance will be published in the June 17th, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, and the public hearing is set for the next regular township committee meeting on July 8th, 2021 at 7:30.
Maybe you can, I don't know. Okay, next is unfinished business. We start first with an update from Tara Ramsey on the summer playground.
Yep. So as previously mentioned, Krista and Tara Zengel, our camp director, and I conducted interviews probably about 2 weeks ago, for applicants that had not worked at the camp in the past. So interviews were great. I think we have an excellent group of 6 individuals plus 1 substitute that is going to be working at the summer playground this year, plus a handful of volunteer junior directors that are high school students that are very excited to volunteer and to work with the kids as well. So official cutoff is June 15th. So we have a few more days. After that, the fee goes up, I think, by like $5. Is that right? Right. So we are tracking pretty well from a registration standpoint. We're not quite at 100. If you remember, we were going to cap it out at 100. We're not there yet, are we? No. So we're not there yet. But registration continues to be strong, which is wonderful. We should be well within the student to director ratio. We talked about that as well. And more information will be coming from Mrs. Zengel regarding any specifics on COVID protocols, check-in process, checkout process. So overall, I think 2021 is going to be another successful year of summer playground, and the kids, speak on behalf of my family, are very excited for this year's summer playground. So kudos again to Mrs. Engel and to the rest of the summer playground camp counselors. They're going to do a great job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is an update regarding JCP&L and how they're dealing with power issues on Garbowsky Road and the Harvest Hill development. Just by way of background, over the course of the last couple of years, I've had a number of people in that area, in Harvest Hill and Garbowsky Road, reach out to me about power issues. For example, last summer, there were brownout issues where their power would not go out, but it would drop. And that was causing issues with appliances, with generators. In one case, somebody's Generac generator blew a circuit board. And it seems like they have a significant number of power loss issues in that area. So as part of dealing with a host of power issues in East Amwell Township, I had conversations with JCP&L and the BPU. Long story short, that area is having power issues because they are at the end of the line, which means if there's a problem anywhere along that line, they're always impacted. Now, JCP&L a couple of years ago did certain things that were explained to me very technically, and I don't profess to understand all of them. They did certain things that were supposed to help mitigate that. But best I can tell, it really hasn't had much of an impact. So I've been staying on top of JCP&L, and they now have an alternative they're working on where if they're successful, they're going to move that area to a different line. So they will no longer be at the end of a line. Well, actually they will. They will continue to be at the end of a line, but they'll also be serviced by another line, which means if they lose power, there will be redundancy. If they lose power from one line, they can actually get power from the other line. So they may wind up going from being the worst in East Amwell Township to perhaps one of the best. So I spoke to JCP&L today to get an update on where this stands. And right now where it stands is it's in the design stage. They then need to get approval from a property owner because they have to run some additional wires across that property owner's property. And then assuming all that gets done, they will get this up and running. I asked for an ETA. He couldn't give me an ETA, which even if you get an ETA, you can't rely on it. But it does seem to be moving forward. So it won't be tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be 2 years from now. I think that it will get done in the reasonably near future. It truly is unfortunate that you have to make a pain in the butt out of yourself to get anything done with JCP&L, but I've also learned that if you make a pain in the butt out of yourself and you go to the BPU, you can get some things done. You're not going to move mountains, but you can get some things done. Next, we have an update regarding the parking at the post office building. That's been another major problem. In fact, out of every problem in East Amwell Township, I think I've received the most calls and emails on the parking at the post office building. And that's probably by far. What created the problem was when JCP&L put in the bike lane and eliminated the on-street parking. So I've been now working at this for probably close to 2 years. We are finally at the point where there are a set of drawings that are going to be delivered from engineering to the labor that does the work. They are going to eliminate the bike lane on the portion of 179 near the post office, and they will restore the on-street parking. That should help significantly alleviate the parking problem at the post office building. I don't know when they're actually going to do this work. NJDOT is worse than JCP&L by far in terms of getting things done, but hopefully the work will get done soon. And our engineer has signed off on what NJDOT is looking to do. They gave us a set of plans. Those plans were Greek to me. I showed them to our engineer. He said, "This is great." He blessed it. I told JCP&L they have the township blessing, go ahead and do it. That's it for the updates. Correct, Kristen? No other unfinished
No, that's
business? Okay. New business, we have a resolution to authorize the award of the bid for the Lindale Road Improvement Project. We got 2 bids. They were actually very close. One was a little below what our engineer had projected. The other was a little above what our engineer had projected, but the 2 bids were very close. The lower of the 2 bids, our engineer's firm has had significant experience with that company, and it's been positive. So our engineer has blessed us accepting the lower of the 2 bids. So this is to complete that project, sections 3 and 4 on Lindale Road. Could I have a motion to approve the resolution to authorize the award of the bid to Top Line Construction?
So moved.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Krista, the next one, the Clean Community Grant Recycling Depot,
I think that was the conversation about it not being covered under
the budget.
the budget.
Okay, that's what this is about. All right, I know what that is. We have a recycling depot every month. It's the first Saturday of the month. It's actually very popular. We had been funding the costs that are the Clean Communities. We were told by the county we can no longer use Clean Community grants to fund things like the recycling depot. Margaret found some money in the budget to cover us for the next few months, but going into next year, we're going to have to pay for this out of the budget. Unless we could find another source of grant money, and we'll look, but we're not aware of any right now, but unless we could find another source of grant money, we're going to have to pay for this out of the budget. We don't know right now exactly what it will cost because we're on the verge of entering into a new contract with Republic, and I don't think we've yet received the dollar amounts.
Yeah, but we're estimating approximately 5,000 for the year.
Right. So somehow we're going to have to find $5,000 in next year's budget to fund this, or find another way to fund it. I don't view canceling it as a realistic option. So we'll have to sort that out. Clausen House, modification request for an organ. An organ was donated to the East Amwell Museum. If we want to permanently install that organ, a hole has to be drilled in the floor. These floors were the original floors that were restored as part of the restoration of Clausen House. I'm intimately familiar with these floors because Kathy and I were part of the demo crew that demoed Clausen House to get it ready to be the East Amwell Museum. So the question is, when this came to me, I wasn't thrilled with the prospect of drilling a hole in this floor. It's not clear to me how critical it is to have an operating organ in the East Amwell Museum, but I wanted to bring this to the Township Committee. Do we want to allow them to drill a hole in the floor? I don't think anybody yet has told us how big the hole would be, but it's not a 1-inch hole. It'll be a decent sized hole for this organ, and there's going to be something in the basement. So how do we want to handle this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to allow them to do it, depending on how large the hole is. I mean, it's like a crucial thing.
First, not enough
Figure out what it
information.
is first, yeah.
So I think you can't make any decision on it because it could be a 1-foot hole.
Jerry, what is the significance of this organ? Like, what is?
Yeah.
Do you know what the significance of the organ is, Kath?
It was donated from the Lindale Church. It's an old organ that's there from hundreds of years ago. It's not that difficult.
Mark, there is an existing hole of about 8 inches that is already in the floor. I am not sure if that is a hole that could be used rather than start another one, that might be a good first step to find out from whoever wants to install it so that it can be played. Will Harrison can play organs, other people can too.
That's right.
But there is an existing hole that is there, that's already been cut. I have no idea why it was cut.
There were holes in the floor for a variety, there were a variety of imperfections in the floor because the house, parts of it date back to the 1700s. So over time, people put holes in the floor for vent pipes, etc. Those were all plugged as part of the restoration. And they were plugged in a way that took that floor back to as close to original as you can. So we can find out the size of the hole, but you just have to understand that you're putting a hole in a floor that has been restored.
It's a 5-inch hole. I got an email from, I think I'm the one who puts this on the agenda actually. So
Mhm.
Mary Ellen Costello is the woman on the Historical Society. She reached out to me. The hole, at least the hole that was in the church, was 5 inches, approximately 5 inches. So, it's fairly small. I don't know what do you guys think? It's only 5 inches.
I mean, is this just a matter of them looking for a place for an organ to go, or?
I think it's there already.
Look, I've never quite understood what the, yes, Kath?
It's a simple
Richie,
procedure.
hang on. She's on the museum. Let me,
Another detail that I understand from installing the organ, we have 2 attorneys on our board. Both of them said that if the organ is installed this way, that it becomes a fixture to the house and stays in the house. I don't know if that makes any difference. And I don't know if that's true or not, or that's what they said.
It seems like there might be a better place for the organ to go. I mean, it sounds like a more work than what it's worth. I don't know.
I've never understood why they wanted to put it in East Amwell Museum. To some extent, that museum seems to become a repository for whatever people have old that they want to get rid of.
owned by Parsons.
And he's with organ lovers, but.
So do you have to recuse yourself in this?
I believe it's from, am I right, Francis? You know, was it from Susie
It was-
Parsons?
I don't remember the exact name, but if you want, I will go measure it, take a photograph. It is in the general vicinity of where the organ is currently sitting that's in there. Then you at least can make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to have a functioning organ or if you want to have a decorative organ.
Oh, so it's already there.
Yeah.
It's physically in there, but it's not functional
Got it.
in there. The
It's
hole
already there.
patch,
No,
whatever.
I think the lawyers are over lawyering it. You can always take it out.
That may not be an
We're not
option.
bound to keep it there forever.
Okay.
That's if we were to sell the property.
I mean, technically, it may be a fixture, but we're not looking to sell the house, so it's not as though somebody's going to come in and we want to keep the organ. So I don't think that's particularly relevant. The question is, to me, twofold, and I don't know a lot about this, but one, do we really need an organ in the museum? And 2, do we want to put a hole in the floor? Now, granted, you can keep the plug. You know, you can keep the plug. It won't fit perfectly because there'll be about an eighth of an inch too small when you take it out. So the plug won't go back in perfectly. But you can keep the plug and put it back in if you ever wanted to take the organ out or the pipe out. The question is this something we really want to do in the museum? Do we want to put in an organ and drill a hole?
So I believe the organ's already there. So there's that. From what this email says, that
Well, Francis just said,
Yeah.
it's already there, so it's
Yeah.
either, do you want a functioning organ or do you want a decorative organ?
Well, there's a lot of stuff, they're just, not to make this cause celeb here, but there's a lot of stuff in the museum that probably shouldn't be there. It became a repository for people to donate anything old that they have. There's a lot of stuff in storage there. you couldn't even open that museum now if you wanted to. There's stuff piled everywhere. And there's not enough storage in the museum to store all of this. So ultimately, some of it's going to wind up having to be auctioned off, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of this, I don't even know what bearing it has on the museum or East Amwell history. But, I mean, I'm fine deferring this discussion of this until we get some pictures and have a chance to think about whether we want an organ in the museum. And if you want to go see it, you know, just let us know. Kathy has a key to the museum. She's on the Historical Society. She can take you in and show you.
I think we definitely need more information.
Okay, so we'll defer this one.
It's not that big a project, really, if you think about it. It's something that's done in the industry all the time. We go into old buildings and we have to go in because they're putting new units on the roof, or they're bringing heavier equipment on the floors. The idea is you have to revert the weight that's going to increase the load on the structure. And how you do that is you go back down to the footing. So all the weight, whether it's on the roof or on the floor, has to be diverted back to the foundation. And the situation, I remember that particular floor down there. So you got 2x12s, I think, which are your main beams carrying the floor. If you're going to cut a hole in it, but number one, you're mentioning an organ, you're not saying already how heavy is the organ. So you're already adding weight if the organ is in there. So you might have a lot of weight there already for that floor. Now, what they usually do is an engineer will go in, there's two things you can do. You might take a core test of the concrete, put the core test in the testing, see what pressure it takes that the core test breaks up. Now that tells them how much more weight they can add to the floor. Now, you got wooden beams holding the floor, but what we usually do is we'll make an angled frame looking something like this. Okay, here's your main floor, whether they're 2x12s or whatever they're going across the floor. Now you're going to make a metal frame. It's going to look just like that. It could be 2x2 angle, whatever. 2 legs, 2 cross legs, and that'll go up on clips that'll rest on top of the beams on both sides. Okay. First, you got to locate where you're going to drill a hole on the floor, and that's where you would go down the cellar and set that support where that hole is going to be, and then you would open that hole up. Now, if the engineer would say, well, we're going to have a lot of weight, you can't do it, but if the core test comes back, the core test is going to tell you how much PSI you're going to be able to put on there. Now, the thing would be, if they're a little bit worried about it, then what we do is we call them lollipops, pipe columns. They'll have a cap on the top, they'll have a cap on the bottom. That'll go up underneath the leg. That'll go up underneath. And it'll go down to the concrete floor, and it will get shielded into the floor. And that's what happens. The idea, whether it's roof, floor, all the pounds per square inch have to revert back down to the footing, because that's what's going to carry the weight, not the floor beams, the footing. You can put all you want up there, but if you don't look at the footing, what could happen is you can have cracks in the floor. So it is a simple thing. The building is concrete never stops curing. It always cures. If you've ever been to Europe, to the Colosseum, you can tell it's still there. That's because concrete mortar keep curing. They never stop. So I would say that floor could hold the weight, because I have torn up some buildings in this town.
Rich, we're good. We're good. It's only a couple hundred pounds. We're good. Okay, so
we're going to defer
we'll
until we
defer
get more
this.
information.
Well, what, do you want me to ask her some more questions about it? Any specific thing you want me to ask her?
Well,
Or-
get a picture of it, get a sense of the weight of it.
Okay.
Know what the size of the hole is, and what purpose is it going to serve in the museum? What correlation does it have to? I mean, if you put it there permanently, there's not a lot of space in that museum for displays to begin with.
Yeah,
The rooms
which
are
is going to
small,
be displaced.
so you're permanently displacing display space. Okay, next we go on to tax bill inserts. Krista?
So I guess the procedure is for you guys to approve tax bill inserts.
Oh, that's right. The one
So,
pager that was in the
Is
Google
that
Drive.
necessary? Do you feel that is necessary to come to you to approve?
The reason that the township committee wanted to approve tax bill inserts is to make sure that nothing inappropriate went in the inserts. So the only approval was to show us the insert each year so we can look at it and make sure that there was nothing inappropriate going out to the residents.
Okay.
I looked at it and it was incredibly innocuous. The one page, it was incredibly
Well,
innocuous.
there's two. The Allison's came in late, so.
I didn't see that one. I only saw the
But
one page.
it's nothing, I mean,
I'm not worried about something Allison generated. So if that's all
I
we're
just thought it
looking.
was kind of.
So are we okay with the tax bill inserts?
That one pager that was there? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one page and then Allison's one page.
Yeah, something
Okay, I'm not worried about
Okay.
that. So that worked.
I just didn't know procedure-wise if
I
that
know
still
that's-
needs to come back or.
We should
Okay.
look at it and bless it every year,
Okay.
just to make sure that everybody's
That's what I
okay
was
with what's going in
okay.
there, so that nothing is inappropriate going.
Gotcha.
When do these go out, Krista?
Soon. July.
July,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, could I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to speak?
What are we speaking on? I don't have the phone. But this is the last open?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I don't. But we didn't get to the budget yet then.
We already passed the budget.
I'd like to welcome this Ramsey. I haven't been here because of this COVID thing. And, Mr. Mills.
Richie, name and address.
Rich Spiegel, One Mountain Road. There seems to be something in town that just won't go away. That's all I keep hearing about through the grapevine on the street. Keeps popping up like popcorn, 25-acre zoning. I hear people saying, it's been said that it's not dead and this and that. And I think it's time for the full story to be heard. Okay. Winston Churchill said, to quote him, if you forget your history, you have no future. And I think that's been going wrong in East Amwell. Those that haven't lived here will never know what the true history is in town and how we got here. So let's go back to the original 25-acre zoning, late 1990s. Okay. Yeah, farmers against the Farmers Act, against the Board of Adjustment of East Amwell for 25-acre zoning. That was, I believe, going close to like 8 years. The meeting was so big, the last meeting, it was held at East Amwell School. The farmers came down with their tractors and everything. It was really a big, long meeting. Okay. And what happened at that time was the fact that both parties have spent so much money at that time, 8 years or so, whatever it was. So what they did was they reached an agreement. All right. Now, see, here's what some people get mixed up. They use the word deals. See, the judges and the courts use the word simple. They made agreements. There's a big difference between agreement and a deal. And personally, I was getting tired of hearing that word, a deal. Deals were made, deals were made. Read the court documents. The word deal is in none of them. It all says agreements were made. Simple. Both parties were going broke. So the agreement was made. The Board of Adjustment backed down. They says, okay, we'll do 10 acres only. And that was the end of the 25-acre zone. But this is what happened. The builders start coming into this building and wanting to build on 300 acres, rigid backbone. Now the elected people says, whoa, what did we do? We opened up a Pandora's box here. How the heck are we going to get out of this mess? Possible 30 homes. Whew. You can't stop them in court, you're gonna lose. Because your pockets are never that deep. Okay, you're gonna lose. So now comes, what are we gonna do? And that's when they went out looking for somebody to come in to help them out. Okay. The owner of that land came in, sat down, said, this is what I could do. I could turn around and do this, spend money, have that. You won't have the 30 homes up there. So an agreement was made with the town at that time to come in, and there's why you got the golf course. Again, I see nothing nowhere that said deals were made. It was all agreements. Okay. Now I've been accused of not doing anything, not turning around and giving my time to any committees, not volunteering for anything, right out of the horse's mouth. Okay. Well, let me tell you, and the people in this town that know me, you see that little room in the back, that office that says prosecutor? That was my office for 3 years. 8, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day. I was in there when meetings started, come right out, have Terry stall, get the meetings together. All right. 3 years I did that. Sometimes 7 days a week I did that. So I never gave anybody any help. You know what I mean? I didn't do nothing. I volunteered for nothing. I didn't do anything. You see, that's when people move into town, they're not here that long enough, and they accuse people of those things when they have no proof. But ask anybody. And how I got into that room, I used to use that seat for an office. First day I sworn in on the weekend, Monday morning I was here at 9 o'clock. And I didn't leave this building for 3 years. I was appointed to negotiate the contract with Comcast Cable. I did it on my time. No problem. I've been helping people all my life. That's the way I was brought up. I got in my car. I went to meetings with Comcast in Piscataway. I went to meetings with Comcast in Newtown with the corporate director. I mean, on my time, we had a committee. Yes, we did. But I learned when you want to get something done, you got to get it done today, not tomorrow. Okay. So on my own time, I met with the director. We put together a package and I would bring it back. Okay. So now what happens is we're in a situation now again, trying to push 25 acres on the farmers. Well, I'm going to give you my opinion on the whole thing. And if none of you have read, this is what you got to do. You have to read the tax appeal, word for word, paragraph for paragraph. Read the tax appeal. Very interesting. Now we get in history repeating itself here. We got into the same situation. Tax appeal started, I believe it was 2005, when we decided we're going to appeal the Ridges case for back taxes. I thought it wasn't a good idea, but that's what happened. Now, it didn't get settled till 2018. Give or take a year. I'm pretty sure it was that. He's reading now, so I'm sure you'll know. But anyway, what happens is, again, both parties are using too much money. There was no deal made. Read the tax appeal. What does it say on the first page? Both parties withdrew their complaints. It doesn't say both parties made a deal. It says right in the documents, both parties pulled their appeal. Now, the judge isn't stupid either. He also puts in that agreement that neither party can come back and reopen the case. So, was that a deal? No, that's the way our courts work. That's the way they work. The rule of law, they work that way. And you interpret the law as a text, as it's read. You don't sit up there and make your own law. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so now they withdrew their complaints. But you must read everything. There is one particular paragraph in that you must read. And I want to tell you what that paragraph says. Mr. Moore said, I don't want to keep going through this, okay? It is costing a lot. I don't want to go through this. But I've had a buyer approach me for somewhere like $6 million for my land. So, I mean, he can go there. He made that point. He can go there. Now, here's where I'm saying, this is my opinion, but I think it's going to be a tough one to beat, okay? By our own admission, by one person that says, I am going to take this personally and make it as hard as possible for Mr. Moore. Now, take it personally is one of the big complaints that we got right now in the other one, okay? Now, let me say this. You all good at arithmetic? This is going to be easy. Men's and men's, it's going to be easy, all right? If Mr. Moore has 30 lots at 10 acres, he's offered $6 million. If you go 25 acres, how many building lots does Mr. Moore have? Do you think the same guy's going to give him 6.7 million for maybe 10 or 11 lots, depending on how they're spread out, when he was going to give them 6 or some million plus for 10-acre lots? Okay. I'm sure you see my opinion here. I hope I made it clear. All right. We're not doing anything right for the farmer here. We're doing it because somebody said, I'm taking it personally to make it as difficult as possible for Mr. Moore. And if you're going to cut his acreage down from 10-acre lots to 25-acre lots, the one way you get to a person's pocket is through their money intake. You know, Winston Churchill also said, we are born with many human traits, but dignity and integrity and respect, you have to earn, Mr. Man. You have to earn. You've got a long way to go.
Anyone else, Francis?
Francis Gavigan, geriatric, 123 Woodsville Road. Sadly to say, I was here for many of those meetings and things over the years. You know, I think that's being addressed in court and things in that regard, so I'm not going to go there. One thing I would like to know is the final rate established for taxpayers between the county's flat, your flat? What is the school doing to us? So how much is our tax bill going to be going up to feed the beast? Does anybody know that yet? Are you still waiting for the state budget? Mm-hmm. You are? Okay. And the state moves with the speed of a snail underneath the tire of a car.
They'll be estimated tax bills.
They'll be estimated. Okay, that makes it a little hard for me to fulfill my promise to pay my tax bill early, to make up the difference. I do follow through, Mark. One thing is a corollary to what the golf course came to be, and I have the documents I could always pull up, is the farmers originally signed a document and an agreement amongst gentlemen that they would sell their development rights for the amount of money, you know, they'd sell it for a value, fair market value. there was a study that was done based on a build out initiated by Fred Gardner 20 some years ago, and there was information that was in the minutes and all of these things that it was going to cost too much money. And so that was also a factor in, well, if you want to preserve land, do the zoning, downsizing, and that's how it started into court. There were various individuals who took the old Magic Meadow property that Bill Reeder used to farm, and it was a lovely ride, and profited from it. You know, that's what happens. But, you know, fortunately, this current committee has, by a majority, said 25-acre zoning is dead. They've also said the farm project is dead, which has been referred to as like a zombie dog that keeps coming up and biting you in the ass. You know, there were a few surprises last night at the planning board, one of which was the sure sounded like the budget for task 3 of the April proposal, so that the 18.5 the county gave you can be done for the, you know, can get done so you're not having to give money back to the state. That's fine. But if you listen, and I can provide you with tapes, not only for last night, but for tonight, if you want to see the video. It sure sounded like it was a master plan revisit, but let's see what we can keep alive with the farm project. There was also a surprise that there was an interactive web page that Allison and some others were working on that just, I guess you're doing beta testing. I don't know when exactly.
That's with the county.
That's with the county? So there's no township money that has been expended?
No.
That's great. But
My wife's 100% volunteer.
Yo, I know. She does everything, and anybody that says anything negative about Allison, I'll lend you my backhoe. But it speaks to transparency, among other things. I sound like a broken record, but when people are listening and they're hearing things for the first time, that's, you know, a gap in communication. I asked last night, and I'll reiterate it again, is to how much communications have been going on between individuals and various others with the county or Rutgers or others about the farm project or any other goals. It doesn't seem like we speak with one voice, and the one voice who is the chair is sitting back there in a black t-shirt, Tim Willie. So I asked last night that the board get a little bit control over what was going on and to make sure there was documentation and a record of what's being done and it's communicated. And, you know, majority of you I trust 100% to do so, but make sure you're, you know, I think a little more sharing could be done, and there are probably emails back and forth and here and there about how we've gotten from point A to point B, and that it's all sort of in the ozone is a little scary. And if you want to see an overburdened Krista, then there might be an avalanche of Oprah requests because of people wanting to know exactly what's going on. So I'd ask that somebody outside perhaps of the planning board or something take a look into this and to see what we're doing, because there's groups and different things, And there's a little bit of a perception on the part of individuals and farmers that, sometimes you can manage situations to get the results you want, or to manage how we foresee farming going in East Amwell towards organic or things like that. That's a red flag for folks like Mr. Bond and others who are trying to scrape out livings. In an ideal world, it would be a beautiful landscape, but we have that landscape because of the people who are scrabbling out a living and continue to get flack and stuff that people don't understand. So maybe we can have a public-private partnership, maybe with the school, Tara, or some different things to help to try to educate the community on what's involved with animals. You feed it, you spend it, you clean up after it, and it has a certain aroma. But it's better than the smell of Jersey City or the turnpike. Huh?
Born in Jersey City.
Hey, hey, look, I was born in Japan, but I lived over near New Brunswick. So I have smelled the Bayonnes at different times. We're fortunate to live where we live. Yeah, well, that's, Cancer Cluster Alley, and different things like that. Anyway, can we work together and maybe John, Tara, Mark, whatever, that we get together a subgroup to work with some of the farmers, if they're agreeable, to where we can clear the air and make sure that we're all on the same page, and to maybe make things better moving forward for everybody. Because you can't legislate ignorance, but you can do something about it, and that's education. I don't know how many of the kids at the school would know a goat from a sheep, or a horse from a cow, or, well, some are formed and some are squishy. We all know, but they don't. And and this could be coordinated with Allison and you and all that, I could bring some animals, Anthony the sheep, geriatric sheep, walks on a leash and comes when he's called. And if you scratch him, he's in sheep heaven. Horse is the same thing. If we educate people and the community and the people who theoretically think, oh, well, this would be nice, about what the realities these people are facing, I think we could get a better outcome and a more civil union, even where we're not united. That's it. Whatever I can do, half horse will travel.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Seeing no one else coming forward, motion to close.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to add one thing to what was said. We do have beautiful landscapes in East Amwell Township, and a significant part of the credit for those beautiful landscapes goes to the gentleman sitting back there in the corner under the tree, Les Hamilton. So let's give some credit where credit's due. Okay, with that, approvals of the bills of the evening. Could I have a motion? You review them, Tara?
I did.
Any?
Everyone's good?
Okay.
Nope. You guys see anything?
Could I have a motion to approve the bills of the evening?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? I hear a comment.
Mr. Castellano?
Yes.
Mr. Mill?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski?
Yes.
And Mr. Wolf?
Yes. The administrative reports, they were in the Google Drive. Any questions or comments on the administrative? I know you usually like to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Last month we talked about the possibility of utilizing the Delaware Township Police Department in a different way than we're currently using our shared services agreement. Unfortunately, Delaware is not going to be in a position to hire another part-timer because the Police Training Commission will only allow departments to bring on 25% of their total police force as part-timers. So they're at a maximum right now. They have 2 part-time guys. However, what I'm currently in discussions with some folks in Delaware is if they're only utilizing their part-timers, let's say 3 times a week, they may be agreeable to dedicating those officers to our township for the other 2 days. So, you know, we wouldn't have to worry about transportation, uniforms, benefits, any of that stuff. As best that I can tell, a part-timer gets about $25 an hour. The township itself might get a small amount, let's say $10. So theoretically, we might be able to get, I don't want to say a dedicated guy, but we would be able to use those resources as we need them based upon the statistics that Jason is giving us, and we would be able to, you know, strategically use them in different parts of the township as we see fit by, you know, coordinating these efforts with Chief Kane. So early stages, but I think that would really serve our residents pretty well because, again, don't quote me on the numbers, but if we could get a police officer for what would amount to be $35 an hour, we're only talking about an 8-hour shift costing us $280 a day. And the revenue, obviously, for those in those particular instances would go back to us. No split fees or the way we're currently utilizing Delaware. So that revenue would come back to us. And what we would simply do is we would take the patrol chart from the officer for that day. It would be, you know, take the summons numbers right from the patrol chart. And this way, Jen could easily decipher, you know, which summonses would actually be going toward East Amwell revenue. So it's just something that we're kicking around. I just wanted you to be up to speed on where those conversations were. The chief wouldn't be able to make that decision alone, but I was encouraged by the discussion. I think, you know, would be a relatively inexpensive way for us to tackle some of our traffic concerns, but stay tuned.
At the recycling depot on Saturday, there was a state policeman, a state trooper, and a Delaware police officer sitting in the parking lot. So I went over to chat with them when we did smoke point. And I introduced myself and had a very nice conversation with both of them. But one of the things that I found very disturbing in that conversation was that they said to me that in this day and age, whenever they stop anybody, whether it's for a traffic infraction or something else, people feel like they have the right to be rude to the police officers. The police officers are now the enemy, and they get no respect, and that's really, really very disappointing. They also did tell me how much they both enjoy working in East Amwell, because I thank them for their service to East Amwell, that they're patrolling our roads and helping make our roads safer. And they both commented how much they enjoy working in the township and they like the people of East Amwell. I had a very interesting conversation with them. I won't bore you all with the details, but they're good people. Okay, so could I have a motion to approve the administrative reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Last, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everybody.
See
Yeah. An answer. A face does.
Yeah.
Yeah.